Today, folks, we're going to take you on a ride through what has been described as Mississippi's slice of paradise. This scenic byway to space through Logtown, Mississippi. At least what used to be Logtown, Mississippi. The former Logtown, Mississippi was founded around 1815. The town was home to the Weston Lumber Company, one of the largest exporting firms in the South. The company operated 2 sawmills and employed 1,200 men at peak production. The company had its own electric plant, ice factory, and it provided electricity to the entire town. In the town, there were many businesses, including a grocery, hardware, drugstores, a bank, ready-to-wear for men, women, and children, a silent movie theater, a Baptist and Methodist church, a hotel called the Parkview, a park with a large swimming pool, and a post office that was active for more than 90 years. In May of 1961, President John F. Kennedy said that his goal was to place a man on the moon. 5 months later, on October the 25th of 1961, NASA announced that the rocket testing facility for the project would be built in Hancock County. As the space age opened, it devoured half of Hancock County. The towns of Santa Rosa, Napoleon, Logtown, Westonia, Gainesville, parts of Bayou La Croix would also be demolished and the citizens forced to relocate. Within a year, some would go to Gulfport, others to New Orleans, Picayune, Pearlington, Slidell, Waveland, or even Bay St. Louis. At its height, Logtown was home to more than 3,000 residents. But by the 1930s, the Weston Lumber Company had begun to cease operations. By then, all the usable lumber had been exhausted, and the town population rapidly declined. By 1961, there was only about 250 residents of the town. And after the construction of the Stennis Space Center, most of the remaining residents left Logtown. A post office operated there from 1884 until 1963. But those 250 residents that still remained in the early 1960s didn't give up without a fight. They weren't about to let their slice of paradise be taken from them just for the sake of progress. A buffer zone was needed by NASA to work on rocket engines, work that is still done today. But the residents said, not here. Not in our home. But alas, it was a fight that they couldn't win. Even Life magazine took note of this small band of residents' fight not only against the federal government, but against the space race itself. The article Moon Race Blots Out a Town denoted some of the concessions that were made by the government. For instance, not only would they pay a fair market share for people that had been displaced, but they would also pay for a home to be moved if at all possible. A tremendous expense. Present day, the only things that remain untouched are the Logtown cemeteries. There are 3 privately owned family cemeteries with graves dating back as early as the 1850s. Along the Pearl River, you can even still find an artesian well, concrete and brick structures that were once the foundations of some of the town buildings. Snaking through the pine and hardwood forest is the Possum Walk Trail, a 3-mile hiking trail stretching in between the NASA Infinity Science Center and what's left of Logtown. Along the trail, you can find many signs telling Logtown's history and even see remnants of the historic Dummy Line Railroad. I look forward to taking you there when we visit the Science Center in a future video. But for today, we're going to take you to what is perhaps one of the most beautiful cemeteries, most peaceful cemeteries I've ever had the opportunity to walk through. The Logtown Cemetery. The Logtown Cemetery is surrounded by beautiful oaks, including one that is 300 years old. It is operated by volunteers. Families of those interred here donate to make sure that the cemetery is kept up, and it looked absolutely beautiful when we were here. It is, again, one of the most peaceful cemeteries I think I've ever had the pleasure of going to. And it made my heart feel good to see that people are still being buried here. Because even though they can't live in Logtown, in death, they were able to come back home. The cemetery here at Logtown is a National Historic Landmark, and it's been very interesting in the years since the residents were moved to other locations in Mississippi. As you can imagine, wildlife has flourished. More than 40% of all known wildlife in Mississippi are present at Logtown. Here in front of this cemetery, there's a clearing by the beautiful oaks, and it was the former site of the Logtown Church. One of the things many people talk about is remembering having picnics there underneath the oaks, and that is still highly encouraged. And a lot of people come out and do that fairly regularly. I think me and Lori may have to do that very soon. Now, from the other communities that I mentioned gave way as well for the NASA buffer zone. Many graves from those locations were reinterred here, including 12 from Gainesville, Mississippi. It was really interesting in researching Logtown to then at the cemetery see those names. The Weston family that ran the sawmill, seeing so many of them here. The Baxters, which were a early Logtown family, many Baxters represented here. You see people from that fought in the Korean War, Vietnam, the Civil War also represented here. People from all walks of life. I even loved the official sign for the cemetery that said, "You're welcome to be here and visit the residence therein. Just leave it the same way you found it." And we most certainly did that. One of the names that I loved seeing was Casanova. What a cool last name. So many of the gravestones are very beautiful and well taken care of. I love this mausoleum here. What was so cool is not only did they decorate really all sides of it, but stained glass windows. Inside is Marion Francis Baxter, a Confederate soldier who lied about his age to enter the war in 1862 at what is purported to be the age of 13. He would be a prisoner of war at a notorious camp where many Confederates didn't make it out alive. They were starved in the hopes that if they did survive, they would not be fit for duty when they had a prisoner exchange. But he did survive and continued on to fight till about 1864 and lived to the ripe old age of 80 years, passing away in 1928. His son, who passed away in New Orleans at the age of 62, is here. His brother, Benjamin Franklin Baxter, also buried here at Logtown. These Baxters are originally from South Carolina, but descendants continue to call the Gulf Coast home. Because of this cemetery, thankfully being a National Historic Landmark, the graves here are taken, as we've said, very good care of, but also a lot is known about the people that are here. And virtually every grave has been categorized and uploaded to findagrave.com so you can find out a little bit more information about the people here. And it's always nice to know a little bit about their life, what they did, what they loved, and in some cases, what their hardships were. The other two cemeteries that are here in Logtown, one is the Coke Cemetery, the other the Point Cemetery, and the names are reference to the family homes that once stood there. One of the things that sticks out too, you see a lot of woodmen of the world, a lot of Freemasons here in this cemetery. The oldest grave, dated to 1853, is that of Florence Louise Hoffman, and she was actually reinterred here from Gainesville. And the oldest original grave here to Logtown is from 1868 with the first name Kimball W. Couldn't make out the last name. It's still so awe-inspiring to me that no matter where you go, and this is the 5th state we have lived in, I sometimes have trouble remembering. Everywhere you go, you find unique stories, people just living their lives, and then things upend everything they knew. One of my fondest places that we lived at one time, me and my family, was Prospect, Tennessee. Prospect, Tennessee, where I was anyway, is virtually no more. The land and many homes were bought out by a large farming operation, and all of those homes were razed. Everything gone. And it was very eerie to go back and see that. So I share a little bit of kinship with what the residents of Logtown must have went through. But I'm glad they still have a small piece of the community that they can always come back to. They can remember having those picnics here at church. They can still come back and see their loved ones. And I tell you, the trip out here, that scenic byway through Logtown, still seems like a little slice of paradise. I appreciate so much you all watching today. Thanks for supporting the channel. And if you're new here, I appreciate you taking your time to watch this. It means a lot. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful day.